Well, I think everybody knows maybe who I am. I'm Mike, I'm Stan's son. This is my sister, Michelle.
The older sister.
We're twins, if you didn't know.
We want you talking to the mic for the recording.
Oh,
Where's the mic?
Mike is right here.
Okay.
Perfect. They're going to record this for us. So, and I'm going to give this to Michelle, and she's going to do all the talking.
Oh, no.
And of course, my mother, Marie. We want everybody to know our family, of course, my wife, Jill, my brother-in-law, Mike, his son, Connor. What's your name again? His daughter, Laura. His son, Josh. And his Ashley, significant other Ashley. I wasn't going to call her girlfriend. My son, Ben. His wife, Kylie. My son, Jake. My son, Nate. And his girlfriend, Hillary. My son, Nick. And his girlfriend, Federica. And Dad's sister, Barb. And Dad's sister, Stephen, and his wife, Chris.
Sister.
Brother. Sorry. Did I get that backwards?
Thanks.
It's been a long time. Nieces and nephew, we've got Joanne, her husband Zach, significant other, husband, and their two kids, Lyric and Skylar, every time, never fails. So, we want to thank everybody for coming. This won't be easy. I think we all know that my dad was a simple man, so we wanted this to be just a celebration of what he was about. So we're going to keep it simple. If you didn't get a beer, you should have one in your hand. And I'm going to try and keep it short, but those in the back who know me know that's not going to happen. So a little bit about my dad. Born 1944, he's a typical baby boomer, right? Both his parents were born in the 20s. Grandpa was in the military. He was the second of 4 kids. Dennis was the oldest. We lost Dennis a couple years ago, along with his wife Barb. His mom and dad, Ed and Marcella. So Dad grew up on the Iron Range. Born 1944. I think his mother called him this more than once. He was a hellion. There's no doubt about it. My dad gave his mother a run for her money. Stories of having to be tied to the clothes pole so Grandma could do laundry. I don't know, Barb's probably got the photograph. There's a photograph of my dad being rescued from a mine pit.
I don't have the photo.
There's an article somewhere, my dad and his buddy having to be pulled out of a mine pit because they couldn't get out. So he was quite the youngster. So much so that when Dad graduated high school and through multiple jobs and growing up in the range, at some point, he was instructed to go into the military. And it was not by his father. So Dad took that option, and he went into the military. We've heard a little bit about his military service. He served in San Diego. He never served on a ship. He's the only guy in the Navy that probably never had to serve on a ship. He did 4.5 years, then got discharged. Shortly after coming back to Aurora, Minnesota, he did meet a lovely woman as he was coming out of a bar. And her name was Marie. Love at first sight? Maybe, Mom? Or is Dad drunk? But there is an age difference, so my mom wasn't able to get into the bar. So there's stories of mom and dad during their courtship of sitting at the dump, watching bears, and drinking a 12-pack of beer. That is so Minnesotan. Mom and dad got married July 5th, 1969. I'll make sure I got my dates right. It took a while, but eventually me and my twin sister came along. There's some good stories, I think, back when mom and dad lived in the apartment complex by the Met Stadium. They lived in an apartment complex where the Minnesota Vikings stayed and the Twins. And there's always a story of mom having a Mach 1 Mustang and going through too many sets of tires. Why didn't you keep that car? Then came along two twins. What's that?
With twins.
Oh, that was it. That was all our fault. So, two twins, unbeknownst to mom up until a month she had us. And, you know, now life really starts. Lots of things happen, right? There's lots of memories, and I'm not going to share them all. Part of my dad growing up on the range is he loved the outdoors. He loved fishing with his dad and his family. Lots of pictures, if you've seen here, of dad fishing. You wouldn't believe the amount of pictures, Steve and Barb, we found of fishing after fishing after fishing. My dad and his buddy Marty and Randy started going to White Pine Lodge in Canada before I was around. And they kept that up for a long time. Eventually, the rest of his family started going up there because he was having a good time fishing and catching walleyes. So that became a standard in the Servatka family for quite a few years, 20 plus. To the point where, at one point when we were kids, we got to go. And I don't think Dad realized what going up to Canada fishing with two young kids really meant. Because it was way different than when he went up there with his families and his buddies. But we fished, we caught fish. And in turn, I think Dad really pushed upon me and Michelle his love for outdoors. Not only was it fishing, it was hunting, right? I think Dad everybody here knows. My dad was my hunting partner. But two kids, and I thought he loved us. Boy, when you gave him grandkids, and we did pretty good. We got, 8 of them. Him and Mom loved having grandkids around. I thought my parents could love me the most, but no, it's you love your grandkids. Oh. So fast forward through life, through ups and downs, loss of his own parents. And every family has struggles, but my dad was a simple man. And some of those things I'm going to leave for my sister, my wife, to talk about. But Dad really enjoyed the outdoors. He loved fishing with his buddies. And I don't know, 10 or 12 years ago, after I started going fishing with my buddies, and I don't know how it happened, but I think Dad missed that. He started becoming part of my fishing crew. And a lot of those guys are standing in the back room. You do not know what it meant for my dad to come up with us every May. He loved fishing. He loved hanging up with the guys, throwing back a couple drinks, and eating that wonderful food. He really, really loved doing it. I think it brought him back to when he was young and he got to do it as a young man. and growing up and being able to share that with me. Oh. And then, you know, I got lucky. I got to fish with my dad in the spring, and I got to hunt with my dad in the fall every year. I think I missed 1 year because Nick decided to be born around hunting season. But other than that, we never missed a hunting season together. So lots of memories. This mic's gonna get turned over to a lot of people here. If you have a memory as we go along and you wanna share it, we'd love to hear from you. Again, my dad was a simple man, and you're gonna hear some of those simple things that brought him joy in life. And a lot of that was because of the people in this room. You ready?
Oh, God, no. Mike.
Oh. The matriarch.
How many of you are police officers? Raise your hands. Okay, I can tell this story. Stan was simple. He was so simple. We lived up in Wadena for almost 3 years. He had never got a deer in all that time. He had never shot one. So what does he do? On a Sunday morning, he goes out and shoots a small doe, his first deer. Okay? It's illegal. So he comes in the house and he says, I put a deer. What do you mean you put a deer? I shot a deer and it's in the back garage. Oh, okay. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, you know how to skin him out and I don't. So he wanted me to skin out this deer. Why, he took the 2 kids and went to school, or church, I'm sorry, to church. Okay. He's a simple man. We ate that deer. Okay. Now, fast forward to 4 or 5 years ago, we live in Vadnais Heights. There's no firearms allowed. So the simple man takes the screen off the window of our living room and decides he wanted one less squirrel. So he shoots at a squirrel, highly illegal in our area. And I don't know, I must not have been around when he did it. He took and he shot through our couch. And he had to have shot twice, because not only that did he shoot through the couch, he shot into the frame of the window, and he didn't break the glass, but the frame is all chipped up, and I can prove it. Come on over. He was a very simple man. He was the love of my life. And I tell you, it's going to be one sad haul. I thank you all. And I just told that story.
He's cringing somewhere. Oh. Okay, it's weird to hear your voice. Just, you did really good with this. I don't know. I didn't really know what to say, but there's something that has happened since my dad passed away in my mind that I wanted to share with everybody, because it has continuously grown since very shortly after he passed. I was talking to my sister, and I told her when we were here planning that I just kind of felt like I just had this vision in my head of my dad and an umbrella, and how, you know, at first everything hurts, right? And you think about yourself, but then you start to think about everybody else. And I pictured this umbrella and my dad holding it and my immediate family. And I thought how amazing it was that we were all covered under this beautiful umbrella. And then I got to talking to other people who loved him. And the umbrella just kept getting bigger. And so it went from your standard $4 umbrella to the ugly, ostentatious, and then we had a gathering at the house, and all of Mike's buddies were there. And I'm watching everybody, and I'm listening to them talk, and I see this umbrella just getting bigger and bigger in my head. And at every day since he's passed, I realize the breadth of who he honored and respected and took care of him in a very simple, unobtrusive way. And the umbrella just keeps getting bigger. It turned into the giant canopy that's sitting on your deck. To now I just picture him with this giant umbrella in heaven, because we know that's where he's at. And it's full of angel wings, and it's full of everybody who's gone before us. And that brings me so much comfort, because he loved everybody in this room. There's no question. And even though he was simple and he was quiet about it, he was supporting us all in some way. And I think I'm sharing it because I just want you to think about that, right? He's gone, but it's such a beautiful thing how he loved us. And so now I just picture this, and it's not, I don't even know if there's a word for it. It's not an umbrella anymore, but it's angels and family and loved ones all just kind of interlocked together, looking over all of us. So when you think about him, I want you to think about that. That's it. I want to miss him.
Well, I can't wing things, so I'm going to use the podium. So Mike already introduced me. I'm Jill, Stan's daughter-in-law. So I've been in Stan's life for about 22 odd years. Hi, honey. Come with me. I don't remember. Okay, this is definitely gonna make me cry.
I'm going in tallest to shortest. Who cares? She has things.
We didn't plan tallest to shortest. I don't remember the exact day that I met Stan, but what I remember is how he made me feel so welcome into the Servatka family, and with a hug and that smile of his, and it was like he made me his daughter from day one, and that's how he was, so welcoming to everybody. And what I loved about him, and we've talked about this, what a simple guy he was, but in the best kind of way. It didn't take a lot to make him happy, and a cigar and a Southern Comfort, a crossword puzzle, a nice prime rib off the grill. I'm gonna miss that. A 12-point buck in his sights. One that he does not shoot illegally. his vegetable garden because we'd get these giant tomatoes and make BLTs with them, and they were the best. All the birds that would show up at his bird feeders. It was just those simple things, but most of all was time spent with family. Oh, and the hope that Jacob mowed straight lines in the backyard and didn't forget sections. It drove him crazy. And he would say, I'm not giving him that $10 if he doesn't mow straight next time. He didn't even move anything, and he just mowed around stuff. But he would still give him the $10 anyways, because that's the kind of guy he was. He loved his grandkids. Stan was also the kind of man that always showed up and was always a constant in our lives. He showed up to all the kids' sports activities, their football games, their basketball games, their baseball games. He loved sports, and he was a little competitive. So when things didn't go well, we'd hear him say, "What the hell are they doing out there?" And then Marie would have to rein him in and say, "We're gonna leave if you don't settle down right now." But I know he said those things because he loved his grandsons so much, and he just wanted to be a part of their lives as much as he could. Stan, a lot of you know Stan too from, oh, that's not good. From our family parties, our get-togethers. He was always the first one to show up. Smile on his face, looking for what beer we had. And then he'd sometimes be the first one to scoot out if some of my sisters and I got too rowdy and had a bit too much fun. And he'd say, "Oh, your sisters are getting loud." But I know that he loved you guys for that, how much fun we had together and how much we laughed together. And that's what I'll remember about him too, is his laugh. I think a lot of people in this room will remember that laugh. I can still hear it. I'm sure a lot of you can. We're going to hold that laughter in our hearts, along with the most important thing that Stan taught us, or taught me, is show up, make time for family, laugh a lot, and just enjoy the simple things in life. And always have the grandson who mows the best come over. It was always Ben.
I just became the replacement once he left.
Nate was okay, and Jake did a slightly better job than Nick. Nick did a slightly better job than Jake. So, you guys want to talk?
I mean, I think there's a couple other people. I'll go first.
Anybody else want to say anything? Thank you for coming up here.
Oh, it's right
Grandpa loved you guys.
Group hug.
I don't care if this is awkward. Was that to the MC?
I'm not ready. This is
Just toss it, whoever catches it.
Oh, here we go. I left this story.
Do I have to have this damn thing?
Yes, absolutely.
In case nobody's ever heard of me, I'm Jim Dunlap. I'm the one that started the Jackass crew up at Camp Deer, which Mike invited. I'll be honest, I didn't know Stan's name for probably 5 years because I only knew him as Scratch. I don't know if anybody's ever heard that phrase used, but Mike invited him one year, and I'll be quite frank, Mike, we'd rather have him than you. I mean, but so the first year he comes, I'm going to speak out of turn a little bit, and I might swear a little bit, so I'm going to try not to cry. And thanks, Jill, for making it hard to follow that shit. Anyway, we'd always have cocktails in my driveway. So I don't know if you know where Effie, Minnesota is. It's about four hours north of here. And it takes us 8 hours to get there, about. And we would start with cocktails in my driveway. Of course, Mike and Stan would always be late. And I'll refer to them as Scratch from here on out. But the first time we ever go, we're like, oh, that bar's open. Well, let's go in and have a cocktail. And right to the Scratch House. 8 hours of watching Scratch. Going crazy. So finally we were like, well, let's just start calling him Scratch. And that was his name forever. He is going to be a very valued loss for us up there. We always, and why we never did this, we always should have started a pool, because when we got up there, we were all super excited because we had to put docks in. And Mike and Scratch would always take the worst dock. And Mike would set it up in the fall, so to just boom, 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 boom in the morning. Or, when we got there, piece of cake, right? Except that Mike would always forget how it went. And then we'd all just sit with a cocktail watching, and we're like, it's gonna happen. It's gonna come. It's just waiting. And all of a sudden you'd hear, Jesus Christ, God damn it. You're doing it wrong, you moron. Blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden the bickering started between the two. And we're like, you can't pay for entertainment like this. So every year it was the same thing. And we loved it. But Scratch was unbelievable. And when Mike said he liked to fish, holy mackerel, that dude fished. I mean, literally, if he wasn't in a boat on the other side of our land, we had a dock, you'd find him casting. And in one year, he caught, I think, a 7-pound walleye, was it? You'd hear him screaming like a little kid. And he was like, yeah, it's a 7, yeah, whatever. We would never give him the satisfaction of catching the biggest fish or anything like that. And up until last year, I found out that dude had the best bed in the whole place. And man, did that piss me off. Because it is we got 10 cabins there, and it's a beautiful little place. He loved coming. We'd sit by the fire, stories, and then that sleeve of crap, whatever that stuff's called, he'd pull that jug out down to the thing, and now it's game on. But we will be pouring a beer this spring at the fire. He will be sadly, sadly missed. A bunch of the Effie boys are back there, and we'll catch a fish and send it home for you. That's about all I got.
So there's another part of the Scratch story. Dad, I can't remember why, but the ambulance had to come to the house. I think he was having a heart attack. I think I was there shortly thereafter. But Jimmy was working the street, and he showed up. Troy, were you there too? I don't think so. Jimmy, Dad's in the back of the ambulance. It's in the driveway. Jimmy shows up. He knew where my parents lived. And he opens the back of the ambulance, and Mom's in the back. He's like, "What's up, Scratch?" Her Mom's looking at him. Who the hell are you talking to? First time she heard my dad called Scratch in the back of the ambulance. Well, we had to explain that story to her because it wasn't the time to explain it then. But but Dad loved being called Scratch. He liked the Effie boys. We had a good time. Michael? No. There's got to be some stories out there. Boys? Yeah? It's kind of tough up here. Steve? Not easy. I know. I had to rehearse a few times.
Get these two girls over here.
Oh, we're two girls. Do you have some good grade school stories?
I think I found you one at your grandma's.
Let's hear it again. I probably forgot it.
He was the first boy I kissed behind the skating shack.
Lockwood girls? Oh, there's one more. I really am. I'm jealous of my dad. I know he came from Aurora, from a small town, but to keep in contact with your classmates all these years is something special.
And so I would have to walk. I would come around and whatever and go around the school. And actually, sometimes how we got home, the football field was between the school, the herding school, and where we lived. And there was a big fence around it. So how we got to school was we made a hole in that chain link fence, and all the people on that end of town would go to school crawling through the hole. We always called it the hole. But anyway, so one day I noticed him, they kind of looked back, and Stan was following me. And I said, "You better behave or I'm gonna get my big brother after you." And that was it.
There is a common story with my dad and my mom. This goes with mom too. It's this group of friends thing that keeps happening through their lives. They both relished reconnecting with their friends in Aurora during whatever 4th of July parade it was. That was their thing. And to this day, they still go up there for class reunions. So they always have that group of friends. Pickles, are you still here? I think he left. His one good friend, Pickles, made his earn. And that circle of friends that's a common theme along with our family through his whole life and mom's. His fishing friends, John and Marty and Randy. His campground friends now from Birchwood. The Camp Deer crew. It just keeps going. The hockey crew, some of you are still here from when we were kids. That circle just continues, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I've never been like that. I say I'm not, but my wife's she's gonna say that's a load of malarkey. Oh, Joanne. Come on up, Joanne. Found some cute pictures of Joanne and my dad when we were going.
Yeah.
He was special. We'll just put it that way.
Definitely. I'm Joanne. I'm Stan's niece. I just wanted to say, our family has taken some really big losses, in the last 5 years with Grandma, Uncle Dennis, and Barb. And I just think about if he was here right now, how much fun he would have seeing everybody together, and how pissed he would be that we're all together for this and not, just growing up, I remember when we went to White Pine Lodge, I drove with Stan and Marie in their vehicle, and I remember crossing the border. And I don't have specific memories, but I just remember being in their vehicle, and I remember them telling me stories about the first movie they ever took me to, and how I would not stop talking. I don't know. We just have lost a lot in our family in the last 5 years, and I feel like Uncle Stan took, after Grandpa passed away, he was the matriarch in our whole family. So having him sit at the end of the table every year for Thanksgiving and Christmas, I just wanted to stop to think about that, because I'm going to miss him a lot, and our family's going to miss him a lot. And I just don't know what, Michelle, what are we going to do now? So thanks everybody for coming. And I just, wanted to stand up and say that I love him and I miss him, and thinking about you guys. So love you. I love you too.
You can tell. You can say whatever you want, Mom.
Family is so interesting, and our niece Joanne, She's very interesting. We had him over Christmas, and we decided to take him to an animated show. So we get in there, and Stan gets us all seated. We took all our winter coats and put them in the stack, and then we sat Joanne on top of them so she could get up high enough to see. And so it was Stan and Joanne and then me and then Jake. So Stan goes out to get us popcorn and pop, of course, and that. And the guy right below us, sitting below us, he gets up and he goes to get whatever he's getting, and he comes back and he sits down. Stan had already gone out, and he sits next to Joanne, and Joanne is looking at him like, who's this dude? And it looked like she was getting scared, and then finally the guy looked at her and he goes, oh, right church, wrong pew. So the couple behind us, they're laughing hysterically at her or the situation. And Stan comes back with the popcorn and sodas and Joanne goes, Uncle Stan. Shh, Joanne, be quiet. The movie's on. But Uncle Stan. He says, Joanne, I told you to be quiet. The movie is on. And she says, but Uncle Stan, I tooted. And the couple behind us started roaring. And when the movie was all over and he says, I've never had so much entertainment in my life. Sorry, Joanne.
Everybody does it. All right. Anybody else?
Would you feel that?
Yeah.
Wham! Somebody wants to say something. What did you want to say? Cheryl, what did you want to say? We talked about it at dinner the other day.
Go ahead.
I miss Stan, and it's hard for him because he's been nice to me and all that stuff, bringing me over to Marie's and all the time.
So you're gonna miss him.
Yep.
All right. Oh, I'll let you do it. Forgive me already because I'm a habitual crier. For those of you who don't know, my name is Laura. Stan's favorite granddaughter, aka his only granddaughter. And I just had to share a little story because, sorry, it's something that I think about on a weekly basis in my life. And it's the story of the day I was born and how Grandpa was so excited to finally have his little girl, his granddaughter. And he screamed and hollered so loud the day that I was born that security ran into the room because they were convinced that there was an altercation happening inside of my birth room. And I just have to share that story because although he didn't have a whole lot to say all the time, there wasn't a day in my life that went by where he ever made me feel less than for my choices, or he ever made me question the way he loved me. And although he didn't have a lot to say, it was so apparently clear in all of our lives the way that he felt about us. And I just have to share that because I'm going to miss him. And I don't care if you cry, you're going to talk.
Okay. Whew. All right, here we go. I don't want to tell a story. What I want to talk about is what he meant to me. So for those that don't know me, So when I was 14 years old, my mother passed. I really didn't have a family in my life. I moved out when I was 15. I basically raised myself and went off to the military. And, you know, that was the last of my family relations. And I'm an only child. I have no brothers. I have no sisters. And so, sorry. So 30 years ago, when Michelle and I got married, Stan brought me to the side and he welcomed me as part of this family in a way that I had never seen before. He was my father. I called him Dad. I called Marie Mom, and she will always be Mom. And he taught me what it was to be a father, what it was to be a grandfather, what it was to be a husband. He was my example on what right looked like. I got the privilege of going on the hunting trips just like his son. I had the privilege of talking to him when I needed help. I had the privilege of being at all of the family events, the birthdays, the anniversaries, the Christmases, and the loss that I feel. It's like my dad, and I love him so much, and I'm so sorry for the loss.
He just kind of had that effect on everybody. Anybody else? I don't know how much more I can take. Somebody got a funny story? Yeah. I mean, I could say I go through my weekly routine was getting pictures on my phone from my father of finished crossword puzzles. Flowers coming up in the backyard. Vegetables coming out of his garden. Fires. So many pictures of fires. Anytime he had one in the backyard or up at his camper, I got a picture. Birds. Lots of birds. And it's just, I laugh, but those things meant everything to him. Those simple things made him happy. And if I bring anything to my life, that's what I want it to be, is to find that kind of joy in all those little things. It's just cool. It's cool. Any hands?
That's so funny.
Where's he going? I'm worried. Just checking the time. Here.
My dad was Slovak. His grandfather came from Slovakia. I think we've all been ingrained in Slovakia traditions. We've all been over there. Our Slovak relatives have been here. My cousin Maros, who some of you have met over the years, is currently in New Zealand, wanted to be here. We actually he's my little brother. I call him my little brother. So we took some traditions, one specifically, and we can't do it out here, unfortunately. But I want to show, and some people know what it is here, but hang on.
They know.
Shows you what effect he had on it. We should have put this out here. I didn't know if that was appropriate. It probably was. So there wasn't a time that we didn't have a family gathering and we didn't have a shot or Slivovitz. So when you are with your family, or you're out fishing, or you're out hunting, or you sit down and you have a moment, raise that glass or that fishing rod to my dad. And that's how I'm going to remember him. And we would all say,
I got something I'm gonna play. I'm just gonna give a little background. Actually, I'm not gonna give any background on it. I just want you all to hear it. And this sums up who my dad was.
Now there's what I call a close-up, huh? I was petting it just a little bit ago, of the belly.
It's a
I don't know
hummingbird.
what's going on. This is the female.
It's a hummingbird.
She's acting really funny. And shaking. I don't know if they do that when they're in heat or not.
It's a hummingbird.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually petting it.
He's petting
Petting the hummingbird.
Nice.
I
Really?
wonder what's wrong with it.
Yeah. Okay, goodbye.
He was a simple man. That little bit.
That kind of summed it up, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thank you.
Your friends and family, your love does mean a lot to us. The last 2 weeks have been hard. Every one of you has texted or called. We do appreciate it. It's been very important to us. So thank you.